Hey, how's it going, guys? I'm Paradoxic, and welcome back to DC's Doom Patrol. This time we're back with episode. This time we're back with Doom Patrol on episode 3 of season 1, titled Puppet Patrol. Last time we had Donkey Patrol, and we investigated the donkey. The donkey left behind after Mr. Nobody attacked Cloverton. And the donkey was more than just a donkey. For one thing, it spewed out, it farted toxic gas clouds in writing in the first episode alone. In the second episode, it turned out to be a literal doorway to another dimension, where nobody was actually keeping Chief hostage after he kidnapped him. Jane fell into, but then the donkey actually threw her up and out and stuff. And one of her personas, one of her many superpowered personas, had actually seen what went on down there and seen Mr. Nobody keeping Chief hostage. So Cyborg, we met Cyborg. Cyborg came in. Cyborg was awesome. He was awesome. I can't wait to see more of him. Cyborg came in and he had history. He had history with the Chief, and somewhat with the Doom Patrol, but more with the Chief. Niles had actually worked with his dad Silas and actually helped out in doing some stuff, and they kept in touch and all that kind of stuff. So now, so at the end of it, when his dad came to pick him up, he actually declared that he was going to stay with the Doom Patrol and actually work to bring Chief back from Nobody's dimension safely. So the only reason they escaped was because the negative energy being within Larry actually managed to escape his body and tear a hole through the dimension and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, Larry had some issues with the negative energy being. Larry wanted to get away from all of this as far as he possibly could, but then every time he would get up to get on a bus, the energy being would actually leave his body, rendering him immobile. So yeah, so then we actually got some confirmation that, you know, he is like the only reason he's able to move or live in any kind of way is because of the being inside him. So by the very end of it, he actually let him out consensually and decided to establish some ground rules on how they're going to move forward from here on out. So I think that's going to be an interesting dynamic to see explored. So that's fun. And then we saw we got a little bit more history on Crazy Jane. Jane had just how many personas there are in her. I mean, I think we knew before that there were like 64 personas, but we now have an idea of like how they all work and which ones come out when. So there's like a hive mind, like a network more or less that they call the underground, and it's where all the personas reside, and it's where some reside deeper than others. Like Katie resides the deepest in the underground, and others like Lucifuge and After Effects, as I like to call her, like the one who literally talks and creates different templates and stuff and turns them into swords and everything. Like, that one's cool. Then there's Lucifuge, and then there's Baby Doll. Baby Doll's the sweeter one. Then the ones we met way back when, Hammerhead and Hangman's daughter. So yeah, I think all of them must have. I think most, if not all of them have superpowers of some kind. Like Lucifuge has electricity. Katie is a fire demon. She literally turns into the DC's Human Torch. So that one's cool. And yeah, then there's After Effects and just a bunch of others, but they all live in the underground and they come up when necessary and when prompted. So yeah, so one of the I think it was Katie who actually saw what went down, but then she doesn't like being interrogated. Katie doesn't like being interrogated, so then that's what Cyborg was doing. So she got angry and turned into a fire demon and chased him, and then Lucifuge came out and all these other people came out. So it was called Diane Guerrero. She is so good. She's so good in that role. She very kind of like very easily and very quickly manages to bounce from one persona to the next and easily brings them all out and makes them look as cool as she possibly can. So it's really cool to see her in this show doing all that stuff. So I can't wait to see more of what she's like. But yeah, we had all that stuff, and then they escaped at the end of it. They escaped the world, and but they now have the new mission of actually finding a way to go back in, because the goat blew up. The goat blew up at the very end. It couldn't take it all. It had actually swallowed all of Cloverton too, so it swallowed up all the civilians and the buildings and everything. So it couldn't really take much more. So it blew up too. So they have to find another way to get into Nobody's dimension and also rescue Chief too. So that is their new mission, and Cyborg is going to join them for it. So I think we somewhat officially have the Doom Patrol without them actually having named themselves the Doom Patrol as of yet. So yeah, it's a fun story so far. It's a really fun story so far. So I'm intrigued to see how much more we discover and, you know, how much further we go with different characters and different things. So yeah, I think they've established that different things, like, you know, like the Justice League exists in this universe. You know, I think Bruce Wayne exists, the Flash exists, so all of that stuff is a thing. You know, I think, you know, I don't know if they're gonna go down the route of there being like their own version of the Titans in this. Like, there's gonna be like a version of the Titans that maybe in this one they had Beast Boy all along. But yeah, I don't know, because I think they're like, having seen this team, for me personally at least, having seen this team for the first time on Titans, made me think, oh, so this is going to be a continuation of that. But no, it's actually same characters, same same backgrounds, just like a different continuity. So I do wonder if that means that, you know, we're not going to have the Titans in this at all. Like, Doom Patrol is this universe's version of the Titans, or if we're going to have a mention of like Robin or Nightwing, maybe they're that far down the line, or, you know, something else in this universe. But, you know, the bigger stuff like Flash and Justice League and everything else has already been established. So it's that kind of universe. So yeah, we can go forth and see what else this show has to offer. So that is pretty much all I've got from the last one. So on to episode 3, Puppet Patrol. This will be the highlight reel, as always. If you guys want to catch the full-length reaction to watch along to, then that will be over on Patreon, so you can go catch that over there. But yeah, that is it, episode 3. Let's go.
But in 10 years from now, you won't even remember this happening. Hey, this is bullshit!
Oh, that was the lab accident that killed her. That was the accident. So it was in their home then. The lab was in their home. Yeah.
Grid.
Wait.
Authenticate footage.
No, the blast came from a different location.
It hasn't been tampered with or edited.
Eric Morden, aka Mr. Nobody. Ah. Was he there? Was he at the lab? Was he doing some physical tampering of his own?
We need to gather everyone for a briefing.
A what?
A briefing.
He doesn't know what that is.
Intel's disseminated.
Right,
Yeah,
sure.
he's not a typical superhero. He's very new to all of this.
Disseminated.
Just go get everyone.
Oh, geez, how did he end up here?
This is your response? Because I wanted some ground rules?
Oh, you want ground rules? I'll put you on the freaking...
I'm done. Tiptoeing around these narrow-minded meatheads who'd sooner kick my ass than look at me if they knew who I really was.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I'm out. Are you serious?
Do you have a photo printer in there somewhere?
No.
Well, where do the photos come up from?
I said no.
Is it your butt? I bet it's his butt.
Where do you get toner for your butt printer?
Who died and made you team leader?
Everyone just shut up. Chief saved all your lives. You owe it to him to keep looking. How does a private jet sound?
Pretty neat. Pretty damn neat.
Means making your own way.
You don't want to give
no
me the jet.
No jet.
Fine. I'll charter one.
I'm not making myself clear. This mission you're on is your mission, not Star Labs.
So no
You
funds
have
either.
your own resources. That
Yeah.
means no Star credit cards.
Well, I thought Silas and Niles were co-workers, colleagues, partners in similar fields. Does he not want to at least help rescue Chief?
Change your plan. Hop on.
Yeah, he's gonna make his own way.
You seriously want us to drive to Paraguay?
Which takes a week.
No, it does not take a week.
Takes 2 weeks.
It takes 2.
2 weeks. Oh, I love this.
It's this left. You're just a goddamn hitchhiker.
You might not want to piss it off.
Parasite.
Yeah, you might not want to piss it off. It will just... Oh, oh no, yeah. Oh my god. I get the point he's trying to make, but still, when you're on the road...
I didn't do anything. It was him.
Impressive leadership skills there, Batman. Way to rally the team. Justice League 2020.
They had one room left.
One room for all of them. One room for all of them. How big is that room? Okay, if it's one room, it's doable. If it's like 2 beds, then I don't know how many of them are on sharing terms.
You said there'd be no more late night beers with the guys.
Ah.
And I meant it.
So does that mean John's
let me
not
get
the
through tomorrow.
first?
You said the same thing when we moved to Ellsworth.
I respect them and their right to exist. Maybe if you weren't such an OCD alpha douche waffle, the negative spirit wouldn't treat you like one.
I mean, he deserves to set some boundaries at the very least. Like, it's not, you know, that's the whole point of communication. Talk about what's okay and what's not okay and yada yada yada. Oh, it is 2 beds. It is 2 beds. Okay, alright then. Yeah, like I said, it's doable. It's doable.
Now they're gone.
That's real irresponsible, Vic. I bet Aquaman never loses his keys.
2 more minutes, Rita, then I'm taking it off the hinges.
So boring.
Look at the vanilla latte. Whoa.
Ready.
Where the hell did they go? They teleported.
How do we get here?
Oh, you know,
It's
one
like
of our
I'm tired of
personas can.
waiting.
Yeah, one of our personas can actually teleport around the
You
like,
could have
they showed
teleported
it, yeah.
us?
We don't need that bite in the ass cramping our style with all these briefings and bullshit.
And years of practical crime fighting experience, but by all means, Cliff, take the lead.
We know Morden.
I'm getting magnet feet instead.
Magnet feet.
So I could walk up walls?
Metal walls. Only metal walls. That's how magnets work.
Oh, thank fuck.
Welcome to Foochtopia. Foochtopia.
Welcome to Foochtopia.
Foochtopia.
Topia?
Foochtopia.
Fuch. Oh, it's German.
Spell it.
We're fine.
This
Yeah.
way, please.
Oh, so he killed. Oh, he killed Heinrich, and he shot the machine.
My Mr. Nobody.
So he botched it, and that's how he became all split up and stuff.
Sadly, we no longer accept Groupons.
And Groupons. They used to have Groupons for this shit.
Do you have an alternative form of payment?
I've got 64 personalities, each with their own superpower. You hook up me and my friends, I'll give you some of my blood. You
Oh,
can use that DNA to
create
do
more.
whatever the hell you do.
Oh, so they can come up with even more powers.
We shouldn't be afraid to admit that we deserve better than this. I hope that you find the love that you deserve. I really do.
Cheryl.
So in the end, he ended up losing Cheryl and John. Looks like a shield eagle at the top. Looks like an SSR eagle. But we know it's not. We know it's not.
I am Sturmbannführer von Fuchs.
Whoa.
Do you like my puppets?
They've kept him alive all this time.
Metahuman
He has like a tube
abilities.
going through his neck.
You
yeah.
want the deal or not?
Oh, he's got his face back. He's got his face back.
It's over, isn't it?
Yeah, he doesn't need him anymore. He doesn't need the being anymore. He's alive. He can walk in his own skin.
Please remain where you are.
Oh, you can take them on, Cliff.
The fuck?
You can take them on.
A friend of Niles Calder.
Yeah, there we go. There we go, ground pound. Oh. Oh, he broke him. He broke him. There. Oh, okay. Oh. Oh.
Happy Dasein, motherfucker.
Oh. And that's the end of him. I don't know what she said, but that's the end of him. Why are you still pumping? He's dead.
I win.
What are you even pumping? Okay, no, he is dead. Yeah, you can stop. You stop winding it now. You can stop winding it now. Yeah, even the puppet's dead. Yeah, you kill the host, the puppet goes down too. Jesus. Okay.
I'm sorry.
Don't.
Yeah, he has super strength. He is a literal, you know, machine. A freaking Terminator with a sense of humor. Oh, damn. Oh, she big. She big. No, just destroy it. Destroy it. That's the machine that created nobody.
Yeah.
Just incinerate it.
Yeah, I thought about the poor bastard who'd get assigned to you if I left.
No.
I felt terrible for the guy. You're stuck with me. You hear me, buddy? I'm not going anywhere.
He's with him till the end of the line. He's with him till the end of the
I'll
line.
be right here.
Control as a weapon for fascists. Okay. Because those scientists were trying to control her. They were trying to control her and her personas and her abilities. Oh, he was in there. And he's Groot. Oh, he's Groot. All of a sudden. Whoa, a mixture of Groot. He's...
Cool.
A Dino Groot? He's Dino Groot? That is a hell of a combination. Dino Groot and something else. That's a hell of a combination. Oh. Jesus. Yeah, okay, wow, so we had our first official outing as the Doom Patrol, and it was fun. Yeah, I think this definitely kind of solidified what the kind of, not just what the team dynamic is going to be, but what the comedy in this show is going to be like. Like, very much personality-wise, as well as comic book universe-wise. Like, you know, like, Cliff just you know, freely taking the piss out of Cyborg and making all the superhero references. Like, yeah, great leadership, great team dynamic, you know, Justice League 2020. Like, that stuff was hilarious, and then him being like, you know, oh, I bet Aquaman would never lose his keys. Like, him just being there to annoy Cyborg gave me life. That was just so great to watch. And yeah, I think it's just how it's gonna be, like, you know, like, you know, Cyborg is the kind of natural, you know, choice for team leader. He was the only one there. I think also, like, the only one who actually wanted to go out and find Chief, like, and, you know, he kind of put together that kind of battle plan of, like, you know, oh, do a debriefing, like, you know, disseminate the intel and all that kind of stuff. And Cliff just, you know, just making fun of that word overall just showed exactly what kind of role he's going to play in all this. But, you know, Cyborg, you know, he's working to be a part of the Justice League. He is working to be an actual member of the Justice League, so that means actually having that kind of like a team member mentality, but also a team leader mentality too. Because I think in this episode it showed that, you know, no one else was there was no person perfect for the role, but no person who really wanted to be. But he was the one with the years and the experience and stuff of actually doing this kind of work. So then he naturally kind of, you know, picked up that mantle and everything, and even the others be like, you know, just questioning what a debriefing is, and Cliff be like, you know, who died and made you team leader? Probably Chief, although he's not dead, he just got kidnapped. So who got kidnapped and made him team leader? But yeah, it was cool seeing how, and I think it was cool seeing how he actually had to try and make do without any help from his dad or Star Labs. Like, his dad said, okay, so you want to go your own way, do your own little mission, because we're not, because, you know, Star Labs isn't a part of this. So, like, to begin with, he couldn't get the Star Jet, and to go the extra mile further, to pour salt in an open wound, he wouldn't get any Star Lab funding or assistance either. So no money from Star Labs, no resources from Star Labs. Everything he found, he had to do on his own. He had to, you know, get the school bus they had and drive them all to Paraguay, which took 2 weeks alone. So that was fun. I mean, 2 weeks technically. I mean, maybe one or two extra weeks, because they kind of circled from Alabama to, I think it was Mississippi, and then circled back to Alabama again, and then actually got their way to, you know, past Texas and everything. So yeah, it was a fun little cross-country road trip to Paraguay. So that was fun. And yeah, and then they find the place. They find this. Heinrich von Fuchs, Fuchtopia, the kind of basically the place to get superpowered makeovers. I think it's not exclusive to supervillains, but it is probably popular among them. And of course, the Morden, the transformation that turned Mr. Nobody into Mr. Nobody, is the most popular one, but also the one that is kind of like a part of Von Fuchs' history too, because Chief actually showed up and shot Von Fuchs into a fatal state, and then also shot the control panel for the machine. So that then botched Mr. Nobody's transformation. So he was probably originally going to be something else, but then the machine botched, and then he ended up turning into like a humanoid Rubik's Cube with his pieces scattered and hovering and all that kind of stuff. But then it still went forward. It still went through. He still actually ended up getting the powers he wanted and getting the position he wanted. So he became Mr. Nobody, and then came back to haunt to haunt Chief and the Doom Patrol with a vengeance. So that was fun. So we had that, and then yeah, so Von Fuchs, and he runs that kind of institution, I guess you'd call it. He runs an institution where you have all these different, you know, Nazi Germans working for him in the present day. You know, all these different, you know, boys and girls, and they're all ready to fight too. They're all ready to fight to preserve their master's honor and their master's kind of legacy and everything. And you know, and yeah, like, you know, Cliff, he you know, he like the way he advertised himself was that he couldn't feel anything. I think he was mainly talking like, you know, he couldn't really feel the way he used to in terms of physically, but also in some sense emotionally. But you know, that comes with its advantage. Someone could shoot him and stab him. He might feel the pressure of the bullets, but he won't feel, you know, fuck all else. Like, you know, he also has the advantage of being like a literal walking tin can with the strength of the Terminator. He's basically the Terminator with a sense of humor, and a much more than an actual tragic human history. So he, you know, that hallway fight scene, he literally just, you know, picked them up, ground pounded them with his strength. So that meant actually, you know, crushing them into the floor and getting one and crushing their head into the wall. And you know, he literally tore one guy apart and then used his legs to smack another guy in the face. So he has strength. He has the strength required to literally tear people apart and crush their bones and other body parts and stuff. So he has capabilities. He has capabilities that no normal human does, you know, being in like a tin can and all. So he does have his advantages. So I look forward to him kind of maybe exploring that a bit more, and also coming to terms with the fact that, you know, he's not the same as what he once was, but this isn't the worst thing. Like he is very much like still capable of actually making the best of a bad situation. I think that is the whole kind of, you know, that is the, you know, I think that's the, like, I don't want to say epiphany, but that is the conclusion that this team might come towards, you know, at some point down the line in the season, or at least by the end of the season, that, you know, they are literally just a group of people who are making the best out of a bad situation. I think that is pretty much already the, you know, the kind of thing that's being studied here. That, you know, these are all people who have, you know, like lived a life post tragedy, post trauma, that has convinced them that they're not capable of living in normal human society without causing trouble or without facing backlash. Like in the very, very beginning, when Jane was going around, you know, stapling the posters. I thought the crowd behind her was because she was taping over their posters, like the missing hamster in the beginning. She taped over that, so you know, I figured it was because she was taping over everyone else's posters. But then, I mean, some of it might have been, but the actual, you know, visible complaint was that, you know, they didn't want her or the team there because they were the ones responsible for having caused the destruction to Cloverton in the first place. So then she resorted to, you know, being Hammerhead, being the being the angry one, and then yeah, and then she stapled it to the dude's face. So yeah, so I think it's like a nice glimpse of seeing what the world is like when they're recognized. Like, you know, like Cloverton actually recognizes that Jane is among the people who, you know, brought the damage there. Like, first they caused the damage, like actually them, like, you know, Rita running down the street and everything else happening, and then of course Mr. Nobody came along and literally swallowed up the entire town. So they're very much recognized in a very, very bad light. So I'm kind of intrigued to see where they take that, or if this is going to be like a one-time thing, because I think it's a nice enough glimpse, a nice kind of confirmation that, you know, like from Larry's line last episode, that, you know, oh, this is what happens this is what happens to the world when we try and live in it. But, you know, seeing actual public reactions to the Doom Patrol would be, you know, more interesting to see how the public actually feels about them and stuff like that. So yeah. But more than himself, he was in. I think Vic said in the 30s or 40s he was actually a member of the Brotherhood of Evil. And I think, if I remember correctly, in like he did explain his own kind of story back in episode 1 when he was, you know, visiting Von Fuchs for the first time and transforming. And he said that, you know, to begin with, he was just a low-level henchman that no one really bothered about or no one really cared about. He wasn't really feared. Didn't really no one really thought much of him. So then that's why he went to Von Fuchs, so that he could actually become something fearsome and formidable, and then he became Mr. Nobody. So yeah, so he actually he has like a known supervillain past. So the Brotherhood of Evil, I'm assuming that is like a DC Comics type thing that I'm just blissfully unaware of. But I mean, it's a cool name. It's a cool name, the Brotherhood of Evil. Yeah, so that. It's no, it doesn't sound like that doesn't sound like no League of Assassins or anything, but Brotherhood of Evil still sounds, pretty decent. So yeah. But yeah, in the end, they fought the Nazis, and also like I think it was after After Effects. After Effects came out, and she took out the Nazis with. I mean, well, no. At first it was Flit. Flit is the one that can teleport, so she teleported and did some, here, there, and everywhere punches and kicks, and then After Effects came out, and she, she literally killed the Nazis with the word templates, fuck Nazis, and the exclamation mark in the head and everything. And then she actually spoke some German. I don't know what she said in German, but she actually spoke some German, and then used those words to kill von Fuchs. So that was a very, very cool death to see. No more von Fuchs. I mean, well, his machine still worked one last time, but still, now no more von Fuchs. And the guy was just whining. I don't know what he was whining. I don't know what he was like. I think he was like probably pumping something. It was like some kind of green liquid or something at the very top of the pod. So I don't know if he was actually pumping that into. I think he had like a tube going into his head, and then there was something else on the corner here. So I think maybe he was just like pumping stuff in to keep Fuchs alive, because Fuchs is very, very old, and he was fatally shot by Calder too, so he sustained those injuries to an extent and was kept alive until today, until 3 visual effects words were just jabbed into his chest, into his heart and everything. So yeah, but yeah, Fuchs, so to get in thingy, Jane actually offered her blood, because she confirmed that all 64 of her personas actually have superpowers of their own. They actually have powers of their own. So one drop of her blood, or at least like a vial of her blood at most, would actually allow them to maybe not only keep doing what they're doing, but also actually give them more possibilities. Because I think we don't know just how many possibilities they have now, like what they can do. I think what they did with Morden was probably the biggest thing they did back then. And then they kept that pod around because it was the pod that transformed him, and then it did stuff for Larry, and it did stuff for like the guy, the little guy with the glasses at the end. His transfer. Okay, so he's part Groot. He's part Groot, not literally Groot, obviously, but he's part tree, and then one of his legs is some kind of bubbly, marshmallow-looking thing, like a bubbly thing, and then he literally has a dinosaur. I think maybe like a thingy, maybe a raptor, or like a not a triceratops, probably a raptor. Like the head looks small enough to be a raptor. So like he literally has a dinosaur for a conjoined twin. He literally has a dinosaur for a conjoined twin. I thought when it roared at him and opened his mouth, I thought it was literally just gonna just take his head and eat it, because it was gonna be the only one in control of the body. But no, apparently this guy is now a like a human tree bubbles dinosaur hybrid. That is a hell of a combination. I really hope we see him again. I really want to see what kind of trouble he gets up to, which is what he does. I think there's no confirmation that he was going to be a villain. He didn't seem inherently evil. He just seemed like he was aware of this whole institution. He was aware of what they can do, what they've done before. So he just wanted some superpowers and stuff. So he came out of it even after the entire room was destroyed and burned by Katie. He still managed to come out, and he came out. I wonder if that's the same thing, because I think last time Calder botched the pod, and then that's what happened to Mr. Nobody. He splintered and became a different thing. So I think I wonder now if maybe his original purpose was to like fuse with a dinosaur, so that then he could transform into one at will, and then transform back into one too. So maybe he could actually transform like to and from human to dinosaur at will and change his shape, but then maybe Katie actually blasting the thing. We didn't really see any other pods in there. The main pod was the one that Larry went into, but I don't know. I mean, I think that was the same one he came out of as well, but I'm not too sure. But either way, he came out. I wonder if that's what actually botched it. Her destroying the pod botched his experiment, so then he, instead of just fusing with it, he actually became physically fused with it in like a conjoined way, and some other like he fused with the tree as well, and some other bubbly being, or inanimate being. So Yeah, this show is, gonna continuously introduce me to all the wackiest of things it can think of, and I'm here for it. I'm loving it. I am loving this. I am loving the creativity behind this and the actual kind of, like just the lengths they're willing to go to show you just how wacky they can be. I love the idea behind the kind of superpowered personas for multiple personality disorder for Jane, like seeing which ones she brings out, which ones she introduces, and how they're all used, and even her even her they didn't really explore what her thing is. Like she briefly explained it that she like a trauma, like a Fuchs kind of guessed that there was like a trauma that happened to her when she was a young girl that then caused her to split and manifest her mental state into these multiple personalities, and then she confirmed that there were actually other crackpot scientists like Fuchs that then experimented on her endlessly, then just tortured her presumably with all these different powers and everything, and then Niles Calder actually came in and rescued her, so he was aware of what was going on, probably in a similar fashion to what was happening to Morden. And then so he put a stop to that, and he put a stop to Jane's one too. But with Jane's one, it was too late because she already had these powers and stuff like that. So then so she had 64 personas, but then because I would assume that the personas all came before the experimenting. I don't know if the experimenting would have increased the number of personas, but then the experimenting actually gave the personas actual abilities and actual powers. So yeah, okay. So yeah, that's a sad story for her. I think I think that is like a. I mean, I don't know much about I don't know much about multiple personality disorder, but I would kind of guess that like it would take a lot, like it would take something big to actually split something like to split yourself up into that, because then so I think I've heard that some people might create different personas to actually cope with a trauma, like they can't cope with it with their core persona, so they kind of create someone else that they can talk to in their heads, or they create a different version of themselves that's like capable of actually understanding and processing it in different ways. So I think that could be the same thing that happened with Jane. But yeah, that is a hell of a story, and she ended up killing him, so good on her, and ending the life of an age-old Nazi mad scientist. So that was cool. And then I think when it was when Cyborg was actually looking back at the footage of his of the lab explosion that killed his mum. So looking back at it, I think it was a glimpse, but I think he threw it in one direction. He threw the counter full of stuff in one direction. And when it was happening live, when it was happening as an actual flashback, it kind of showed everything happening at once. But then when he actually looked back through the footage, he threw it in one direction, but then the explosion came from another. I figured it would have been, him throwing the stuff without really caring or without noticing, or him throwing it in frustration. Meant that he didn't really realize what he was throwing. So maybe he threw like a flammable liquid, or threw like a Bunsen burner or something, and then everything just blew up and everything was flammable. But no, like from the CCTV footage, it showed that he threw it in one direction, but the blast came from another direction. So I was wondering then, so someone else was clearly there, like someone else like tampered with it. It was clearly like another controlled explosion, and then he did more kind of more investigating into it, and then the AI actually detected that Mr. Nobody was there. I kind of assumed that's what that meant. Like it detected like another being there, and then it identified it as Mr. Nobody. So yeah, okay, because I mean, it would kind of make sense because Mr. Nobody clearly has a grudge to pick, like he has a bone to pick with Calder, so that's why he kidnapped him. But then he also has a history with him, like Niles Calder is the one who fucked up his experiment, the one that would give him these powers and make him better than he was. But then he still kind of botched it up, and now he's like in this state. So then it kind of makes sense that he would then, like, throughout the timeline, anyone who was connected to him, anyone who was connected to Calder, he would try and screw up their lives too. So yeah, okay, I see. So I mean, he could have been, because it detected him there, and also the blast clearly kind of came from a completely different direction. I mean, I'm gonna go back and look at that one more time. I was considering doing that, but I'm pretty sure that is in fact what it actually showed us. Yeah, and he authenticated it, so it wasn't tampered with or, made up or anything. I like the AI's kind of sass, like, yeah, oh yeah, this is what authenticate means. This is exactly what it did. Yeah, so an unsub identified Eric Morden, aka Mr. Nobody, current image not available. So yeah, so back then, that's what he was. Good old Alan Tudyk playing him. But yeah, so unsub identified. So yeah, so something that probably wasn't meant to be there. Something that wasn't meant to be there. So he was present at that lab accident. So he must have caused it. He must have caused it, and then that's why he knew. Like, not only was it because his mother died, but it's because Mr. Nobody, unbeknownst to Cyborg at the time, Mr. Nobody was the one who was responsible for the explosion. He was the one responsible for actually killing his mother, and also leaving Cyborg in this, leaving Vic in this injured state that then turned him into Cyborg. That's why he knew it would be such a, such a sensitive memory, because he's the one responsible for it all. So, yeah, okay. So I wonder then if he'll actually look further into that and actually confront Mr. Nobody. Once they find him again, and once they find Chief, if he'll actually confront Nobody on that specific kind of history, or how he might actually approach the situation now, knowing that he might be able to get his hands on his mother's killer. But I don't know. I do not know. But it was a good flashback. It was an interesting little tidbit of Vic Stone's history. And then we had Larry. Larry struggling to communicate with his negative energy being, his negative energy spirit. So yeah, I mean, I get what Larry wanted. I think what Larry wanted makes sense. He wanted control over his own body, not to have to control the negative energy being. But I think he could have gone about it in a better fashion than literally insulting the being whilst he was at the wheel on the road. Like, that was just asking for trouble. Like, he knew, like anyone would know that if you piss off that kind of being that's inside you whilst you're on the road driving your only vehicle, you're the only source of transport you have, then it's going to get pissed off, it's going to be aware of what's happening, and then it's going to try and muck stuff up. So he could have tried it in a better fashion than that. But, I think where he was coming from, he had a point of actually wanting to express some kind of freedom of bodily autonomy, and actually wanting to, go where he wanted and do what he wanted and stuff like that. But then the negative energy being, I think its motives, to me, as of right now, its motives are still somewhat unclear. Like, I'm not sure what it wants besides from to actually live in it. Because I think, it found him in the sky. It found him. I think it was in like the atmosphere that it found him, and then the plane started crashing. So yes, I don't know what it actually wanted, though. I don't know what it actually wanted, because I think it's the only I think it needs a host to properly live. It needs an actual body that it can have. It's like souls and supernatural. Souls need vessels to inhabit. So, the negative energy being needed a vessel that it could inhabit if it wanted to actually move freely and go, do what it wanted to. So, it and Larry are fighting over this one body that they both shared, that originally belonged to Larry to begin with, but Larry seems to get less and less kind of say because of the fact that the negative energy being controls him so much more. Like, if it leaves, then his body is done and dusted. Like, it's the only thing keeping him, able to move and think and do all that stuff. So, you can't blame Larry for trying, but I think, communication clearly is key there, setting some boundaries. I mean, he tried to set boundaries. He tried to set boundaries, and then it ended up, sleepwalking him to the metal beams in the garage, and, just waking him there. So, so you want some ground rules? Let me hoist you up in the air on these beams. So, yeah, it's clearly not the best of communication. It's not the best of communication, but then I think that's the thing with Larry back then too. We got plenty of Larry history. We got a lot of Larry history and Larry flashbacks in this episode. Saw what his past was like, his affair with John, and his very, very strugglesome marriage with Cheryl. So yeah, so with John, John was originally going to go for a discharge. He couldn't. He didn't want to have to stay in an air force that wouldn't accept him for who he was. So he was originally going to go for a discharge, and he wanted Larry to go with him since they were both in love and everything. So that was their original plan. But then Larry didn't really have that luxury, having a family, being in that kind of a lifestyle and everything. He didn't really have the luxury of just dropping everything and moving with John. And I think he also did respect his wife too much to just leave her like that and to actually leave with no explanation and stuff. So yes, and it's exactly what Larry was what nobody was mocking him about in the last episode. The fact that he couldn't communicate with either of them, the fact that he couldn't own up to who he really was or keep lying to Sharon anymore. He was in that ongoing state of conflict until the negative energy being came along and inhabited him and also crashed his plane and burned him beyond recognition. So yeah, so we saw that him and John had those kinds of tensions because they didn't really they had different ideas on how to proceed with their relationship and everything. And then of course Cheryl kind of had her suspicions. She ever since he was always going out on late night beers with the guys. I think that clearly was a code name for at the time. I think at that time just going out and making out with John and spending time with him. But I think that makes me wonder because I think they moved from different places to places. They moved from I think town to town or state to state or something. So that makes me wonder then if John was the first one, because then I think it could also be a case that maybe his work carried him from place to place. Maybe that happened. But then I think I think I don't know if that would really grant much motive to move unless they kicked him out in one town and then he had to move to the next. But then if he was in the same job each time, then especially being in the Air Force, then word would have traveled around to other branches, being like oh, don't hire this guy, don't give him a position, he has a lifestyle we don't agree with and all that bullshit. So I don't know how that would have gone, but I think she because it wasn't the first time it was happening, she was growing all the more suspicious that he was spending more of his nights out with the boys than he was with his wife. Like even for a married man, he was spending more time with guys than he was with his wife. So then it kind of gave her valid space and reasoning to grow suspicious and to wonder what was really happening. And she didn't really chastise him, but she did kind of say you need to make a decision as to what this really is and what's going on, and then come to a conclusion as to who you are, so that we can both move on in a way that we deserve. And even at the end, even at the very, very end, that final flashback of him inside that kind of quarantine room, her being she's not really going to come back. She's even told the kids that he would never come back after what happened, he'd gone away and he might not ever come back. So she kind of told him that final message was I hope one day you find the love you deserve. She knew, she had to have known what the truth was. She had to have figured it out eventually, and then moved on in her own right. So yeah, to see that story unfold, I think is actually really interesting too. Seeing how he just moved on from one kind of nightmare to the next. In one, in both kind of appearances, he's kind of living, at first he's living a life, like a romantic life that society doesn't agree with as of yet. But then, after the accident, he actually looks like something like something that society doesn't agree with, and something that's not fit for regular human interaction and stuff. So it's interesting how he just kind of jumped from one nightmarish life to the next, and how he kind of tried to cope with it and everything. So yeah, and then he went into the pod and he got the opportunity to actually live out his life in some to see himself with hands and with a face and with skin again. Matt Bomer was back. It was no longer a burned kind of corpse that was, somehow managing to walk. And I think one of the flashbacks actually showed him walking down a hallway with all the doctors and nurses dead. So I wonder if that was actually him that did that, or if it was something else. Because I think then, some people in suits and stuff came along, some hazmat suits came along, and they identified him and told him not to move and to stay put. So I wonder if that was actually him, or if it was a negative energy being that actually jumped out of him, then killed everyone, and then jumped back into him again. Because I think he was crossing down out of the room, and some bodies were already there, and then one body dropped down, and then the hazmat suits came in. So I wonder if it was because whatever the doctors were gonna do was gonna get rid of the energy being, or maybe it was gonna actually harm Larry even further, because he was burned beyond repair. He was broken beyond repair. So whatever they were gonna try, maybe wasn't just gonna not fix him, but it might have actually done more damage. So then the being actually left his body, killed them, then jumped back in. So that was somewhat more of a dramatic flashback. But we had that, and then of course the final one, and then John actually stayed behind. John actually said he wasn't gonna go for the discharge. He was gonna stay in the Air Force, hoping that he'd actually that Larry would actually get to come back out and actually rejoin again. So he stayed, and then that kind of drove Larry even more, heartbroken, because he knew that he wouldn't leave. I think deep down, as much as he kind of gave himself that kind of optimism and that kind of false hope that he would actually leave one day, and that the doctors would be able to fix him and everything. He knew that what had happened to him was basically irreversible. It was basically irreversible. So he would never look like he used to. He would never look like Larry Trainer again, but also he would never he would never be able to live life as Larry Trainer again. He had this being inside of him. He was scorched. He was something completely different. So life itself would kind of move on without him. Shirley left him. Shirley kind of left and took the, and like probably just went to her folks too, to look after the kids. And then John, I think he probably kind of I think he said go. I think in that scene, I was wondering, in that scene, like, is he telling him to go as in to leave the hospital, or is he telling him to go as in, just go ahead, take your discharge, you deserve better than me, you can find better than me, and stuff like that. Because I was wondering, like, if he was actually going to finish a sentence, or if it was just going to be some kind of secret messaging that only John would actually understand the meaning behind. Like, he's just saying go, but then behind the window, you see the tears in his eyes, you see him kind of, just relapsing, turning away from the speaker and everything. So then that's probably him. So I was wondering, that's probably him finally accepting that, yeah, this is it. He's lost everything. He couldn't even bring himself to make a decision while he had the time, and now after all this has happened, he's lost everything. He's lost Shirley. He's lost his kids. He's lost his family. He's lost his career. He's lost John. He has nothing left now. He has nothing and no one left. Until Calder came along and actually, saved him in some aspect, saved him in some sense. So, yeah, the story of Larry Trainer is a sad one. The story of Larry Trainer is a very, very sad one. It's a very, very kind of heartbreaking one. And it shows that sometimes not all love is meant to last. Not all of it's meant to last. But, yeah, I do hope we actually see some kind of positivity in Larry's future in this season at the very least, if not season 2. But I guess we'll have to wait. We'll have to wait and see. And then in the end, of course, Silas did come through with the jet and everything else, and then Cyborg. I think Cyborg and Rita, when they were left behind from Flitt's teleportation, they kind of like contemplated like the whole teamwork thing and actually being a hero and stuff. And Cyborg, I think he's been training for this, but I think he still feels like he's not fully ready for everything he wants to actually accomplish yet. And I think like he sees rescuing Chief as the ultimate test. If he can get Chief back and bring the Doom Patrol back together and actually help them become an actual team, then that proves he's ready for the Justice League. This is the first mission that he chose for himself. So then, so like in the beginning, then it kind of makes sense why Silas would cut off everything and be like, okay, you want to choose your own missions? That means you choose your own resources too. So he goes off on his own that way, and then when he's left behind, he gets the opportunity to actually think about what's actually going to happen and how he's going to do things. And then he actually goes forward with the Doom Patrol mission, and now I think he has that choice. I think at the end of it, he, Silas kind of caves in and actually gives him the jet to actually help him get back and stuff, so he uses that. But he is still kind of thinking, like, he's Cyborg, but is he ready to be a because right now his position is basically team leader. He's actually using his own experience and knowledge to lead the rest of the team and to actually help them, fight as an actual team. But is he ready to be a team leader if he wants to be like a member of the Justice League? Like that's the question at hand. So I think seeing that kind of evolution explored for Cyborg in this season will actually be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see how he kind of evolves with that kind of question, with that line of thinking. So yeah, it'll be fun. But yeah, that is it. That's pretty much all I've got from this episode. Looking forward to seeing how things go forth from here. Now that they know a bit more about Mr. Nobody and how he came to be, and a bit more of what the history is for the Chief too. So yeah, I guess we'll see how things go forth in the next episode. But that was Doom Patrol Season 1, Episode 3, titled Puppet Patrol. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you guys enjoyed it, then salt and burn that like button. Comment on what you thought of the episode and what you think is coming up next time on Doom Patrol. Once again, the full-length reaction for this episode will be over on Patreon, so you can go check that out over there. And yeah, that is it. So, I will see you guys next time.